But I think the one thing you get if you're an atheist or an agnostic or a Catholic or a Protestant when you read The Lord of the Rings is this is a healthy world. It's a healthy world in an objective sense, in the sense that evil is real, it exists. I mean, the real absence of good is evil. That good is something which is objective, that there's no relativism. In the Lord of the Rings and in Middle-earth, you don't sort of have an opinion. You either are fighting for the good.
True. That's quite true.
Yeah, or you're fighting for the devil. I mean, there is no in between, because ultimately in reality there is no in between. Doing nothing means you're fighting for the devil.
And yet the characters, say in The Hobbit, you've got the main Bilbo, but you've got the main dwarf,
Thorin Oakenshield.
Thorin is good, but gets the dragon sickness, as you call it, when the Smaug is finally killed, and then Thorin almost becomes the dragon because he's hoarding that wealth for himself. So even though you don't have moral relativism, you have characters who, as in real life, are fairly complex and who can be partially good, partially bad, good at times, bad at others. And as you say, of course, his reconciliation with Bilbo at the end is very moving.
But Bilbo's also suffering from the dragon sickness at the beginning of the work. The point is that, and the whole point of the journey, the whole point of the pilgrimage, the whole point of the quest that Gandalf sends him on is to make him recover from that dragon sickness. Ultimately, dragon sickness is going back to the gospel, where Christ says that get this right now, that where your treasure is, there your heart will be also.
Yes.
So basically, the dragon sickness is putting your heart where your treasure is, and the treasure not being God. So basically, it's possessiveness, it's materialism, and one of the great lessons of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings is that the thing possessed possesses the possessor. So if we put all of our heart, all of our souls into our possessions, and at the beginning of the Hobbit, of course, that's what Bilbo is doing. He doesn't want to go on an adventure because he's got his little hobbit hole. He's got all his creature comforts. No, he's basically a creature of comfort addicted to the creature comforts. And the whole purpose of the journey is to help him overcome that addiction. You have to take up the path of suffering, and an adventure, as Chesterton said, is an inconvenience properly considered. So you have to take up the inconvenience, you have to take up the suffering in order to grow in virtue. And the whole of the Hobbit is about growing in virtue. And the dragon sickness is something which afflicts Bilbo at the beginning, and also afflicts Thorin at the beginning, because he's interested in recovering the treasure. And there are more important things than recovering the treasure. So for Thorin and the dwarves as well, it's about finding something that's more important than worldly treasure and worldly gain. So all of them grow in virtue. And Smaug really is just a symbol, as dragons always are in Christian iconography, of the devil. So, of course, he is only interested in the gold because he has no other interest. The rest of us have a choice. And how we choose is important. And the whole of The Hobbit and the whole of The Lord of the Rings is about choices, and about making the right choices and the wrong choices, and growing in virtue and growing in wisdom. And the whole purpose of life is to grow up. And to grow up in a real sense, it's not to grow bigger, although all of us are doing that in good ways and bad ways, but to grow in wisdom and virtue. And that's what the Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit teaches us.